Okay, this is talking about $500 of weed that I was going to buy on the company credit card. But before that, let me give some context to this, okay? Some context. Because if you worked at Valve, you often treated indie developers to dinners, drinks, whatever, because you want to. They're special. There'll always be a special part to Valve, and Valve respects that. And you'll never get in trouble spending money on indie devs, except for I'm going to point to a time I thought I was in a lot of trouble. But equally, it was also the place where I couldn't spend money. I'll explain that in a minute. But so this is one of the things when I traveled around was I would always find out like who's the person everybody knows, because every game community has that. In Seattle, it used to be Jake Casdale. And so if you were going to have a party, you talk to Jake, but partially because he had these great parties when you set up your booth at PAX. They'd be like, hey, go to Jake's place. And 17-bit studios. They're now in Japan, but at the time they were in Soto. Next to a strip barn, when you tell Uber or a cab driver where you were going, they're always like, we can let you around in back so no one sees you where you're going. I'm like, no, we're going in front. We're going in front. Seriously, no one would ever believe us, and they would still drop us off in front of the other place. But, okay, so they would have these parties at the beginning and at the end. At the beginning, everybody brought their own beer because they're like happy, they're excited, they've got dreams and hopes in their lives. Sunday night, they're just finished closing up. It's like 8 o'clock by the time they're done. There's no place open to buy beer, so I bought beer. And I would buy a lot of beer. I'd buy $500 worth of beer. I'd go to Target, because Target has the best selection of beer, or it's the only place between PAX and Jake's place. Unless someone drove me, then I went to someplace nicer to get better beer. Or the time I bought the $25 gallon of tequila, and it was gone in the morning. Oh, God. All right. But so I would buy that beer there, and I just joking. Well, why buy beer? I could just buy weed, which would have been appropriate for that studio's parties. But ends up I didn't do it. But I would do this often around. I would always be like, hey, who's having the party? Who's having like who knows people? So like if you're gonna go to Boston, I know the person there, right? It's like Julie in Copenhagen. Like there's always somebody that you can just say, hey, can we do a dinner? And so when I was traveling around, went to an event in Kyiv during the war, but before the war really kicked up. This is like the fifth take of this because I'm not going to get into that because it just depresses me and it's going to make this all super negative, and I don't want to do that. But I asked my friend Sasha there if she could set up a dinner for me. And she's like, yeah, the day after the event. So the event is normally like people like me go to these events and they do their talk and then they go back to their hotel and where I'm like, no. I hang out with everybody. I go to the event. I go see other speakers. I go hang out, and especially in a place like Kyiv where it's hard for them to come to the West. And this is a thing that drives me nuts. A lot of people don't understand. Cis nations, it's hard for them to get a passport or to be able to travel into the West because everyone's scared they're going to run or whatever. I don't know. And so you have to go there. And so I would go there. And this would be the first time a lot of people ever got to talk to somebody from Valve or Steam. And they're launching their game on Steam. And they're like, oh my God, I'm going to talk to you, right? And so I would just literally post up and stand in a corner and just talk with people. And I would do that all day, but then I'm like, hey, the next day, can you set up a dinner or a lunch or a dinner? We did dinner, beer and sausages. And so I go to that, and nobody would let me buy them food or drink because I was their guest. And so they would do that for me. Each of the individual ones took turns buying me beers or drinks, which then I had to, have a beer from everybody. But it was just a lovely evening. And that is the only place in the world ever that did that. So I just really says something about the culture and the loving people there. And that was a really special night because that was great because it's a counterpoint to the night before where we're at the end of the day party with World of Tanks people, and they're throwing this giant party, right? And it's crazy. And then someone's like, hey, we're going to karaoke bowling. Do you want to go with us? I'm like, yeah, of course I want to go to karaoke bowling. I hate karaoke. Let's be clear. We all hate karaoke. Nobody likes it. But karaoke bowling sounds funny enough. So we go to that, and we get there like at, 10 or 11. And we start drinking. There's a big group of us, maybe 20, 30 people. And it just is going. And at one point, I remember somebody decided that the service was too slow, so they just got bottles, mix, and ice, and were making drinks for everybody else. Everybody there drinks Jameson. Jameson's is a horrible whiskey. All right, but so we are drinking. We are drinking, and it's 6 a.m. And I look around, and there's a few locals, and then there's a couple of Western devs, and the Western devs, like, it's not that I drank them under the table, even though one was Icelandic. Point that out. It's more, I just drink less. All right. So it is sloppy time of the evening. And one of the locals comes up and like, hey, like, this is a big bill. Who's going to cover this bill? And I'm like, oh my God, this is the time I get in trouble. Because this is like 20, 30 people drinking for 8 hours. I saw bottle service. I saw like, what's this bill going to be? What's this bill going to be? Oh my God. So they get me the bill. They show it to me. And it was like $314. I was like, yeah, it's cool. I got that. Man, I had that moment of I'm gonna have to explain this one. I finally, because Valve never questions my credit card charges. That one said like $1,500 on PayPal, and I'm like, ask me about this. Get mad at me. Wonder what I'm spending money on. And I'm like, I trust you, but I'm a bad boy. You don't know. I'm a wild card. The $1,500 PayPal was by the way for the Valve softball team. But like they just trusted me, and I guess I behaved well. But like all Eastern Europe was like that. Like going to Minsk, trying to get over $5 on an Uber, couldn't do it. Could not spend that money. So it was a place that I really hate what's happening there. Yeah. So that was my scary thing. And then I say that I was the sober one there. We went outside and it was just snowing heavily. Got some Ubers. Everybody went back to the hotel. Woke up the next morning and realized, even though it was snowing, heavily snowing and cold, I had left my winter jacket at the bar and had to go back. Which is just hazy. I'm trying to explain it because I'm meeting another dev and they're taking me to their studio, and their studio is like in an apartment complex because, how you do it when you have to. And I'm like, it's a karaoke and bowling place. No, I don't remember where I was. Like, come on, I forgot my winter jacket there. How good do you think the directions are going to be for me? But yeah. We found it. I got my jacket back. And then the next day, after meeting those guys, I just went to sleep for a while. And then, met the wonderful people who wouldn't let me pay for food. But so, Valve employees, if you run into one at a bar or at a place for food, get them to foot the bill, because they will.